The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with noise as always. Aliens from dozens of worlds filled the curved seats that rose up like steps toward the ceiling. Their voices mixed together in a constant hum of different languages and sounds. Some clicked their words, others sang them, and a few made deep rumbling sounds that shook the floor. Veltar stretched his long neck and looked around the hall with his 4 eyes. As the council speaker, he had to keep track of everyone who came to the meetings. His blue skin rippled with small waves of light as he thought. Something felt wrong today, but he could not say what it was. The Zenthari diplomat checked his tablet again. The name Tai-Ho Kim glowed red on his screen. The human ambassador had missed 3 meetings in a row now. This was not like the humans at all. They always came to every meeting, always sat in the same seats, always took careful notes on everything that happened. Veltar looked at the empty section where the humans usually sat. The seats were clean and pushed in neatly. No bags, no tablets, no coffee cups that the humans always brought with them. It looked like no one had sat there for weeks. Has anyone seen Ambassador Kim? Veltar asked the hall. The noise died down a little. Many heads turned toward the human section, then back to Veltar. Crixina raised one of her tentacles from the water tank where she sat. The aquatic depths representative had skin like a jellyfish that changed colors when she talked. Right now it was flashing yellow, which meant she was confused. I sent 3 messages to the human embassy last week, she said. No one answered. I thought they were just busy with some human holiday. A few other aliens nodded. The Pyrian delegate, whose body looked like it was made of living fire, sparked brighter for a moment. The human traders did not come to our market station yesterday, or the day before. We have been waiting for Captain Dongwu Li and his ship for 6 days. More voices joined in from around the hall. The human doctors had not shown up at the medical conference on Kepler 442b. The human engineers who were supposed to fix the mining equipment on Titan 7 never arrived. The human teachers at the Galactic University had all sent messages saying they were taking leave, but no one knew when they would be back. Veltar felt his skin growing darker blue, which happened when he was worried. He touched the communicator on his desk and tried to reach the human embassy. The line was dead. He tried again, using the emergency channel that was supposed to work all the time. Still nothing. Computer, he said to the hall's main system. Show me the location of all human ships in this sector. The big screen at the front of the hall lit up with a map of the nearby star systems. Usually it would be covered with small green dots showing where human ships were traveling. Now the screen was almost empty. Only a few green dots remained, and they were all moving away from the council worlds. The hall became very quiet. Even the Christek delegate, who usually made soft ringing sounds like tiny bells, was silent. Veltar tried not to panic. Computer, show me all human colonies and stations in the outer rim. The screen changed to show the edge of their galaxy. Again, there were hardly any green dots. The few that remained were also moving away, heading toward empty space where no one lived. This must be some kind of mistake, said the Araxian representative. Her silver face was smooth and emotionless, but Veltar could hear worry in her voice. Humans do not just leave. They always tell everyone their plans first. They make reports about everything. Crixina's tentacles swirled in her tank, turning her water cloudy. I will send a ship to check the human embassy, she said. Maybe their communication system is broken. But even as she said it, everyone in the hall knew something much bigger was happening. 3 hours later, Crixina's ship reached the human embassy station that orbited the council homeworld. The building was still there, still had power, still had air, but it was completely empty. The security cameras showed everything. The humans had spent 2 weeks carefully packing up their things. They had cleaned every room until it was perfect. They had organized all their files and left them in neat piles with notes attached. They had even watered the plants in the lobby and left instructions for taking care of them. But there were no humans anywhere. In Ambassador Tai-Ho Kim's office, they found a single piece of paper on the clean desk. It was written in the common galactic language that everyone could read. Thank you for 47 years of cooperation. All ongoing projects have been completed or transferred to local teams. The embassy facilities are donated to the council for whatever use you see fit. We wish you well in your future endeavors. It was signed with the official seal of Earth's government, but no one had signed their name to it. More reports came in over the next few hours. Every human facility in the galaxy was the same. Clean, organized, empty, No signs of fighting, no broken equipment, no messages asking for help. The humans had simply packed up and left, taking only their personal things and leaving everything else behind. The trading posts where human merchants sold goods from Earth were still running, but only robots worked there now. The research stations where human scientists studied alien plants and animals had been turned over to automated systems. Even the small coffee shops that humans ran on different worlds had been closed down, with signs saying "Thank you for your business" hanging in the windows. By the end of the day, Veltar had to admit the truth that no one wanted to say out loud. Humanity had left the galaxy. All of them. Every single human had somehow disappeared without anyone noticing until it was too late. The worst part was not that they had left. The worst part was that they had done it so quietly, so carefully, that no one realized what was happening until it was completely finished. As Veltar looked out at the stars from his office window that night, he wondered what the humans knew that the rest of the galaxy did not, and he wondered if they would ever find out where 8 billion humans had gone. The stars looked the same as always, but somehow the galaxy felt much emptier now. 3 months had passed since the humans disappeared, and the galaxy was starting to break down in ways that no one had expected. Veltar stood in his office, looking at reports that made his blue skin turn dark with worry. Ships were getting lost in hyperspace every day now, not destroyed by pirates or damaged by space storms, but simply lost forever in the emptiness between stars. The first major disaster had happened 2 weeks ago. A Zenthari cargo ship carrying food to a mining colony had tried to jump through hyperspace to save time. The computer had calculated the route the same way it always did. But something went wrong. The ship had appeared 3 light years away from where it was supposed to be, floating dead in space with its engines burned out. The crew was rescued, but they were confused and scared. The captain, an experienced Zenthari pilot named Sekra, kept saying the same thing over and over. The navigation felt wrong. The stars were not where they should be. More ships started having the same problem. Routes that had worked perfectly for decades suddenly became dangerous. Pilots who had been flying the same paths for years found themselves lost in unknown parts of space. Then Crixina made a discovery that changed everything. She had been looking through old records, trying to understand what was happening to their navigation systems. In a forgotten file from 5 years ago, she found something that made her tentacles turn bright red with shock. It was a report from Captain Hyejin Choi, a human pilot who had worked with the Galactic Trade Association. In the report, she had found 17 different mistakes in the standard navigation charts that everyone used for hyperspace travel. The mistakes were small, but they could make ships appear hundreds of miles away from where they wanted to go. Captain Choi had quietly fixed all the mistakes and sent the corrected charts to every major shipping company in the galaxy. But she had never made a big announcement about it. She had just done the work and sent it out, like it was no big deal. Now that she was gone, along with all the other humans, no one was checking the navigation systems anymore. The mistakes were building up again, and ships were paying the price. But the navigation problems were not the worst thing that was happening. Dr. Byung-Soo Yoon had been working at the Araxian Medical Center for 15 years. He was a quiet human doctor who never spoke much at meetings, but he had spent his whole career studying a disease called the Araxian Plague. The plague was an old sickness that had almost destroyed the Araxian people 200 years ago. They had found ways to control it, but it never completely went away. It would flare up sometimes, making people very sick. But it had not been a big problem for decades. Now it was back, and it was spreading fast. The Araxian government tried to use the same treatments that had worked before, but nothing was helping. The plague was stronger now, and it was killing people faster than ever. When they looked for Dr. Yoon's research files, they found them all organized perfectly in his old office. But the files were written in a way that only he could understand. He had been working on new treatments that were much better than the old ones, but he had never finished writing down exactly how to make them. Without Dr. Yoon, the Araxian people were facing the worst outbreak of plague in 2 centuries. Other species tried to help, but none of them understood the disease as well as the human doctor had. The medical crisis was spreading to other worlds too. On Kepler 442b, the alien research station was having problems with their life support systems. The human scientists who had worked there had designed special air filters that kept everyone healthy. Now those filters were breaking down and no one knew how to fix them. Veltar was getting reports like this from all over the galaxy. Small problems that were becoming big problems. Systems that had worked perfectly when humans were around, but were now failing without them. The worst report came from Crixina's homeworld. She had returned to the aquatic depths to check on her people, and what she found there made her sick with worry. The great underwater cities where her people lived were having serious problems. The water filtration systems were not working right. The temperature control was breaking down. The artificial currents that brought food and oxygen to different parts of the cities were slowing down. All of these systems had been designed by a human engineer named Kyunseo Lim. She had worked with the aquatic depths people for 12 years, slowly improving their technology and making their cities better places to live. Engineer Lim had left behind detailed plans for everything she had built, but the plans were incredibly complex. It would take years for other engineers to understand them well enough to maintain the systems properly. Crixina's people were not in immediate danger, but they could see what was coming. Without the human engineers' knowledge, their cities would slowly break down until they became impossible to live in. But perhaps the most frightening discovery came from the intelligence department. For 30 years, the galaxy had been at peace between the Pyrian Federation and the Christek Collective. The two groups had very different cultures and had fought several wars in the past, but they had learned to work together peacefully. Now that peace was starting to crack, the Pyrians were a proud, hot-tempered people who made decisions quickly and liked to solve problems with action. The Christek were careful and methodical, preferring to think about problems for a long time before doing anything. These differences had caused friction between them for generations. But somehow, they had managed to avoid another war. Whenever tensions got too high, cooler heads would prevail and find a way to calm things down. What no one had realized was that those cooler heads were usually human. Dr. Kyung-hee An had been the galaxy's leading expert on alien psychology. She understood how different species thought and felt, and she had quietly helped solve dozens of disputes before they became serious problems. She had written reports about the Pyrian and Christek conflict, explaining how to keep both sides happy. She had suggested compromises that neither side had thought of. She had even predicted exactly which kinds of situations would cause the most tension, and had helped create systems to prevent those situations from happening. Now Dr. An was gone, and no one else understood the psychology of interspecies conflict as well as she had. The Pyrians and Christek had started arguing about trade routes 2 weeks ago. It was a small disagreement, the kind that had been solved easily dozens of times before, but this time no one knew how to fix it. The arguments were getting louder. Both sides were saying things that they would not have said when the humans were there to help them find better solutions. Veltar could see war coming, and he did not know how to stop it. As he sat in his office late at night, looking at all the reports of things going wrong across the galaxy, Veltar finally understood what had happened. The humans had not just been another species living in the galaxy. They had been the invisible foundation that kept everything working. They had solved problems that other species did not even know existed. They had prevented disasters before anyone else noticed the danger, and now they were gone, and the galaxy was learning what it had lost. The worst part was that the humans had probably known this would happen. They had spent decades quietly keeping everything running smoothly, and no one had thanked them for it. No one had even noticed what they were doing. Veltar wondered if the humans had tried to tell them. Had there been warnings that everyone had ignored? Had the humans asked for help that never came? He was afraid he already knew the answers to those questions. The Galactic Council had never organized a search operation as big as this one. Ships from every major species were working together, scanning empty space and following any clue that might lead them to the missing humans. Veltar stood on the bridge of the Council flagship, watching the stars stream by as they traveled through hyperspace toward Earth's old solar system. Beside him, a young Zenthari commander named Zephyros was studying sensor readings on a tablet. Zephyros was different from most of his people. While other Zenthari were content to follow old traditions, he was curious about new things and eager to solve problems. His skin flickered with rapid patterns of light when he was excited, which happened often during their search. "We should reach the Sol system in 2 hours," Zephyros said. The advanced scouts report that all the human colonies are still there, but they are not responding to our signals. Veltar nodded, but he was not surprised. They had visited 12 human settlements already, and they were all the same. Buildings standing perfectly normal, power systems running smoothly, but no humans anywhere. The first planet they had searched was New Busan, a human colony world that had been home to 3 million people. The cities were clean and organized, as if everyone had just stepped out for a few minutes. The schools still had lessons planned for the next day. The hospitals had fresh supplies ready for patients who would never come. Even the parks had been watered recently, but there were no humans. The search teams had gone through every building, every basement, every storage room. They found clothes hanging in closets, food fresh in refrigerators, and personal photos sitting on tables. But every single human was gone. It was like they had all just vanished at the same time. The same thing had happened on every human world they visited. No signs of struggle, no damage to buildings, no messages asking for help. The humans had simply disappeared, leaving behind everything they could not carry with them. "Commander," one of the bridge officers called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the search team on Kepler 186F. Veltar and Zephyros looked at the main screen as the face of Captain Thuval appeared. The Pyrrhion officer's flames were burning low and blue, which meant he was confused or worried. "We found something here," Thuval said. "In the human research facility. You need to see this." The image changed to show the inside of a laboratory. Everything was spotless and organized, just like all the other places they had searched. But Thuval was standing next to a computer terminal that was still running. "The humans left most of their computers turned off," Thuval explained, "but this one was hidden behind a false wall. It looks like it was designed to stay running even after everyone else left." Zephyros leaned forward, his skin flashing bright yellow with excitement. "What kind of data is on it?" "Research notes," Thuval said. "Lots of them. They belong to a human scientist named Dr. Wu Jin Han. Most of the files are locked with security codes, but we managed to open a few of them." Thuval paused, and his flames flickered nervously. "The files we could read are disturbing. Dr. Han was working on something called the Exodus Protocol. According to his notes, humans have been planning to leave the galaxy for 30 years. The bridge became very quiet. Veltar felt his skin turn the darkest blue he had ever seen. "Send us everything you found," Zephyros said. "We are coming to your location." 3 hours later, they were all gathered in Dr. Han's laboratory, looking at files that explained things no one had wanted to believe. The research notes told a story that made everyone uncomfortable. Dr. Han had been a physicist, but he had also been studying galactic politics and society. His files were full of observations about how other species treated humans. One file was titled, "The Service Species Problem." In it, Dr. Han had written about how humans were seen by the rest of the galaxy. Other species thought of humans as useful and reliable, but not important. Humans were good at solving problems and fixing things, but they were rarely given positions of real authority. Another file talked about the appreciation gap. Dr. Han had kept track of how many times humans had prevented disasters or solved major problems for other species. The number was huge, but in most cases, the humans had never been publicly thanked or rewarded for their help. The most disturbing file was called Prediction Models. Dr. Han had used mathematics to predict what would happen if humans suddenly left the galaxy. His calculations showed exactly the kinds of problems that were happening now: navigation failures, medical crises, system breakdowns, and conflicts between species. But the file that scared everyone the most was titled, Beyond the Galactic Edge. In this file, Dr. Han had written about theoretical physics that most other scientists had never even imagined. He had discovered that it was possible to travel outside their galaxy, to the vast emptiness between galaxies where no stars existed. More frightening, he had proven that the journey could only be made once. The technology he described would seal the passage behind anyone who used it, making it impossible for them to return or for others to follow them. He built a door that only opens one way. Zephyros said quietly as he read through the files. The humans found a way to leave forever. Veltar was looking at the final entry in Dr. Han's research journal. It was dated just 1 week before the humans had disappeared. The Exodus Protocol is ready, the entry said. We have tried for 50 years to be good partners in this galactic community. We have solved problems that others ignored. We have prevented wars that others did not see coming. We have built bridges between species that others said were too different to work together. But we are tired of being taken for granted. We are tired of being seen as the species that fixes things for everyone else, but is not trusted with real responsibility. We are tired of watching other species fight about power while we do all the work. The galaxy will learn to solve its own problems. Maybe that is what should have happened from the beginning. The entry was signed with Dr. Han's name, but underneath his signature was something else. It was a list of names, thousands of them. Every human scientist, engineer, doctor, teacher, and leader in the galaxy had signed their agreement to the Exodus Protocol. Zephyros looked up from the tablet he was reading. "There is one more thing," he said. Dr. Han left coordinates, not to where the humans went, but to other hidden research stations. He says there might be more information at those locations. Over the next 2 weeks, they visited 7 more hidden facilities. Each one had been left the same way, clean, organized, and full of information that explained how thoroughly the humans had planned their departure. They found Captain Hyojin Choi's navigation logs, showing all the mistakes she had been fixing in the galactic star charts. They found Dr. Byung-Soo Yoon's medical research, explaining diseases that only he had understood. They found engineer Yoon Seo Lim's technical manuals, describing systems so complex that it would take other species decades to learn how they worked. At every facility, they found evidence of the same thing. Humans had been quietly keeping the galaxy running, solving problems that other species did not even know existed. And now they were gone. And they had made sure that no one could follow them. On the last day of their search, Zephyros made a discovery that changed everything. In Dr. Han's personal laboratory on a small moon near Earth, he found a communication device that was still active. "It is designed to send messages outside the galaxy," Zephyros explained to Veltar. Dr. Han left it here in case anyone wanted to try to contact the humans after they left. Veltar stared at the device for a long time. It was their only chance to communicate with the humans, to ask them to come back and help fix the problems that were getting worse every day. But as he looked at all the research files and evidence they had found, Veltar began to understand that the humans had not left because they were angry. They had left because they were tired of being the only ones who cared about keeping the galaxy working. 6 months had passed since the humans left, and the galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had imagined possible. Veltar stood in what used to be the human embassy, now turned into a crisis management center. The walls were covered with screens showing disasters happening across dozens of worlds. Every day brought news of another system failing, another conflict starting, another problem that no one knew how to solve. The Merchant Guild's economy had collapsed completely 3 weeks ago. For generations, they had been the galaxy's most successful trading organization, moving goods between thousands of worlds and making huge profits. But now their ships were lost in hyperspace more often than they reached their destinations. Their trade routes, which had worked perfectly for decades, had become death traps. Cargo that was supposed to take days to deliver was taking weeks if it arrived at all. The guild leaders had finally admitted the truth that they had been trying to hide. Almost every successful trade route in the galaxy had been mapped by human pilots like Captain Dongwu Li. The humans had found ways to make space travel faster and safer, but they had never shared their complete methods with anyone else. When the guild tried to hire non-human pilots to replace the humans, they discovered that no one else understood how to navigate through the dangerous parts of space that the humans had been avoiding for years. The economic problems were spreading to every world. Planets that depended on trade to survive were running out of food and supplies. Manufacturing centers could not get the materials they needed to keep working. Even the wealthy core worlds were starting to have shortages of basic necessities. But the economic crisis was not the worst thing that was happening. Crixina had returned from her homeworld with terrible news. The great underwater cities of the aquatic depths were dying. The environmental systems that engineer Yoon Seo Lim had designed were breaking down faster than anyone could repair them. The water filtration plants were producing water that was not clean enough to drink safely. The temperature control systems were failing, making some parts of the cities too hot and others too cold. Worst of all, the artificial currents that brought oxygen to the deepest parts of the cities had stopped working. Thousands of Krixna's people had been forced to leave their homes and move to shallower areas where they could breathe naturally. Our best engineers have been studying LIM's designs for months, Krixna explained to the council, her tentacles flashing dark purple with sadness. But her work is too complex for us to understand quickly. She did not just build machines, she created entire ecosystems that worked together in ways we never imagined. How long do you have? Zephyros asked gently. Maybe 2 years before the cities become completely uninhabitable, Krixna said. Maybe less. The medical situation was even worse. The Araxian plague had spread to 12 star systems, and nothing the doctors tried was working. Without Dr. Byung-Soo Yoon's research, they had no way to fight the disease effectively. Millions of people were sick and more were getting infected every day. The Araxian government had quarantined entire planets, but the plague was spreading faster than they could contain it. Other species had tried to help, but none of their medicines worked on Araxian biology. Dr. Yoon had spent 15 years learning how to treat Araxian diseases, and his knowledge had died with his departure. But perhaps the most frightening thing happening in the galaxy was the war that everyone could see coming, but no one could stop. The Pyrian Federation and the Christek Collective had been arguing for months about trade routes and territory. What had started as small disagreements had grown into serious threats. Both sides were building up their military forces and making angry speeches about their rights and honor. Without Dr. Kyung Hyun's psychological expertise, no one knew how to calm the situation down. The diplomats from other species tried to help, but they did not understand how Pyrian and Christek minds worked. Every attempt at negotiation only made both sides more angry. Veltar had seen this pattern before in the historical records. It was exactly how the last war between these two species had started, 200 years ago. That war had lasted for 30 years and had destroyed entire solar systems. The most frustrating part was that everyone knew the war was preventable. Dr. An had left behind detailed files explaining the psychology of both species and exactly what kinds of solutions would make them happy. But her files were written in complex, scientific language that only other psychologists could understand, and there were no other psychologists in the galaxy who specialized in multiple alien species the way she had. Desperate to find answers, Veltar had made a pilgrimage to Earth itself. The human homeworld was still there, orbiting its yellow star just as it always had. The planet looked normal from space, blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. But when he landed in what had been the human capital city of New Seoul, he found the most haunting sight of his life. The city was perfect. Every building was clean and well-maintained. The parks were full of healthy plants and flowers. The streets were swept and organized. Even the public transportation was still running, with automated trains moving silently through the empty stations, but there were no people anywhere. Veltar walked through neighborhoods where 3 million humans had lived just 6 months ago. He saw children's toys in the playgrounds, bicycles parked outside houses, restaurant tables set for meals that would never be eaten. In the center of the city, he found the building that had housed Earth's government. Inside, in what had been the president's office, he found a message that had been left for anyone who might come looking for answers. The message was playing on a loop on every screen in the building. It was from President Dae Junga, the last elected leader of humanity in the galactic community. President O looked tired in the recording, but his voice was calm and clear. To whoever is watching this, he said, "We want you to know that we did not leave because we were angry with you. We left because we were tired. For 50 years, humans have worked to be good partners in the galactic community. We have solved problems that others did not want to solve. We have prevented disasters that others did not see coming. We have built bridges between species that others said were impossible to build. But we were never treated as equal partners. We were treated as the species that was good at fixing things for everyone else. When there was a crisis, you called us. When there was a problem no one else could solve, you asked us. But when it came time to make important decisions about the future of the galaxy, our voices were rarely heard." The president paused in his recording, looking directly into the camera. "We offered partnership and you wanted servants. We offered innovation and you wanted compliance. We offered friendship and you wanted utility. We realized that we had become an invisible foundation, holding up a structure that others took credit for building, and we decided that it was time for you to learn to build your own foundations. The galaxy belongs to all of you now. All the problems, all the challenges, all the work that needs to be done, it is yours to handle. We hope you will do better than we did. We hope you will learn to work together without needing someone else to show you how. We do not hate you, and we do not blame you, but we will not be coming back to fix things for you anymore. It is time for you to grow up. The message ended with President O's signature and the official seal of Earth's government. Veltar sat in the empty office for hours, thinking about everything that had happened since the humans left. He thought about all the crises that were getting worse every day, all the problems that seemed impossible to solve without human help. But most of all, he thought about how the humans had been right there the whole time, quietly keeping everything working, and no one had bothered to notice or thank them for it. As he prepared to leave Earth for the last time, Veltar realized that the hardest part of losing the humans was not just that they were gone. The hardest part was understanding how much they had done, and how little appreciation they had received for doing it. 1 year had passed since humanity's silent departure, and the Galactic Council was meeting in emergency session for the 4th time that month. The great hall that had once buzzed with confident voices now felt hollow and desperate. Zephyros stood at the speaker's podium where Veltar had once presided. The older Zenthari had resigned 6 months ago, saying he was too tired to watch the galaxy fall apart any longer. Now Zephyros, despite his youth, had become the new council speaker by default. No one else wanted the job of managing an endless series of crises. His skin flickered with dim, tired patterns as he looked out at the half-empty hall. Many species had stopped sending representatives to the council meetings. They were too busy dealing with disasters on their own worlds to waste time on galactic politics. The situation reports, Zephyros announced to the remaining delegates. The news was the same as always, but worse. The Merchant Guild had officially dissolved after losing 70% of its ships to navigation failures. Entire trade routes that had connected civilizations for centuries were now considered too dangerous to use. The Araxian plague had spread to 28 star systems despite every quarantine effort. Billions of people were sick, and the death toll was climbing every day. The few alien doctors who had tried to continue Dr. Byung-Soo-yoon's research had made no progress in developing new treatments. Crixina's report about the aquatic depths was the most heartbreaking. Half of their great underwater cities had been abandoned as the life support systems continued to fail. Her people were facing the largest refugee crisis in their history, as millions were forced to leave their ancestral homes. We tried to rebuild the systems that Engineer Lim designed, Crixina said, her tentacles moving slowly in the murky water of her tank. Our best minds have been working for months. But her designs were not just machines, they were living ecosystems that grew and adapted to changing conditions. We can build copies of her devices, but they do not work the same way. They do not learn and improve themselves like hers did. But the worst news came from the border worlds near Pirion and Christek space. The war that everyone had seen coming had finally started. It had begun with a small skirmish over a disputed asteroid mining station. Both sides claimed the station belonged to them, and both sides had sent ships to take control of it. Without Dr. Kyung-hee-an's psychological expertise to help them understand each other, the Pirians and Christek had completely misread each other's actions. The Pirians saw the Christek's careful, methodical approach as sneaky and threatening. The Christek saw the Pirians' quick, decisive actions as aggressive and disrespectful. What should have been a minor disagreement had exploded into open warfare within hours. Now, after 6 months of fighting, entire star systems were burning. The Pirians' fiery ships and the Christek's crystalline vessels were destroying each other, with weapons that had not been used for 200 years. Other species had tried to negotiate peace between them, but every attempt had failed. No one understood the deep cultural differences that Dr. An had spent her career studying. Every peace proposal had accidentally insulted one side or the other, making the war even worse. We estimate that the war will spread to at least 12 more systems within the next year, reported General Kavthul, a military advisor from one of the neutral species, and we have no way to stop it. Zephyros looked around the nearly empty hall and felt the weight of failure crushing down on him. Every species in the galaxy was struggling, with problems that had seemed simple when the humans were there to solve them. The most frustrating part was that they still had access to most of the human technology and research. The humans had left behind detailed records of almost everything they had built or discovered. But having the information was not the same as understanding it. Human technology was not just advanced. It was intuitive in ways that other species found impossible to copy. The humans had built systems that could adapt and grow, that could solve problems their creators had never anticipated. Other species could build machines that looked the same and use the same basic principles. But they did not work with the same elegant efficiency. It was like trying to paint a masterpiece by copying each brushstroke without understanding why the artist had made each choice. There is one option we have not tried, Zephyros said finally. Dr. Han's communication device. The hall became very quiet. Everyone knew about the device that the humans had left behind, the one that could supposedly send messages outside the galaxy. But no one had wanted to use it. Using the device would mean admitting that they needed the humans to come back and save them. It would mean confessing that the galaxy could not function without human help. What would we say to them? Asked Crixna. What could we possibly offer that would make them want to return? Zephyros had been thinking about that question for months. The galaxy had already proven that it would take the humans for granted. Even now, when everything was falling apart, many species still talked about the humans like they were a resource that could be recalled when needed, rather than people who had their own feelings and desires. We could offer them equal representation on the council, suggested one delegate. We could give them leadership positions in every major organization, said another, but Zephyros shook his head. Those are the same mistakes we made before. We are still thinking about what we can give them to make them work for us. We are not thinking about what they actually wanted. He had spent the past year reading through all of Dr. Han's research, trying to understand why the humans had really left. The answer was not complicated, but it was hard for other species to accept. The humans had not wanted more power or better rewards. They had wanted to be appreciated for what they were already doing. They had wanted their contributions to be recognized and valued. They had wanted to be treated as partners instead of as a service that other species could take for granted. But it was too late for that now. 3 days later, Zephyros stood alone in Dr. Han's laboratory, looking at the communication device that could reach beyond the galaxy. He had spent hours writing and rewriting a message to send to the humans. Finally, he activated the device and spoke into the transmitter. This is Zephyros of the Zenthari speaking for the Galactic Council. We know that you can hear this message, and we know that you have no obligation to respond to it. He paused, trying to find the right words. We want you to know that we understand now what you were doing for us. We understand how much you contributed to keeping our civilization working. We understand that we took your help for granted, and we understand why you decided to leave. The galaxy is struggling without you. We are facing crises that we do not know how to solve. Systems are failing that we do not know how to repair. Species are fighting wars that we do not know how to prevent. We could ask you to come back and help us. We could make promises about how we would treat you differently this time. But we know that words are not enough. We had 50 years to show you that we valued your contributions, and we failed to do it. Instead, we want to thank you. Thank you for all the problems you solved that we never knew existed. Thank you for all the disasters you prevented that we never saw coming. Thank you for all the years you spent keeping our civilization stable, while we argued about who deserved the credit. We hope that wherever you have gone, you have found the peace and appreciation that you deserved but never received here. Zephyros turned off the transmitter and waited. The device was designed to send messages instantly across the void between galaxies, but there was no guarantee that the humans would respond. Hours passed, then days. Zephyros began to think that the humans had decided not to reply at all. Then, after a week of silence, the device activated. A human voice came through the speaker, clear and calm. This is Captain Haewon Kang of the exploration vessel New Horizon, responding to the Galactic Council's transmission. Zephyros felt his skin flash bright with excitement and hope. The humans were still alive, and they were willing to talk. We received your message, Council Speaker Zephyros, Captain Kang continued. We appreciate the sentiment behind your words, and we are glad that you have come to understand the situation that led to our departure. There was a pause, and Zephyros held his breath. However, Captain Kang said, we want to make something very clear. We did not leave to gain leverage over you. We did not leave to make you realize how much you needed us. We left because we were tired of being needed in the first place. We are not waiting in the darkness between galaxies, hoping that you will ask us to come back. We are building new lives in a place where we can explore and grow without constantly being called upon to solve other people's problems. The galaxy was our home for many generations, and we learned a great deal from living alongside so many different species. We harbor no anger toward any of you, but we also harbor no desire to return. You will adapt to the challenges you are facing now. You will learn to solve your own problems. You will grow stronger and more self-reliant. This is not a punishment. This is the natural process of maturation that we inadvertently delayed by always being there to help. Captain Kang's voice softened slightly. We wish you well, all of you. May you find wisdom in struggle and strength in self-reliance. May you build